Sorry. I
Was not expecting that. All right. Hey, guys, and welcome to episode 9 of Read This Way. You're, what are we now?
We're manga and anime still, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
I
good.
went to
That's
kind of
good.
like.
That's what I'm prepared for. If it's anything else, I'm screwed.
I am out of luck.
That's
No,
right.
yeah, you're home for anime, manga, and whatever else. News, review, whatever. Um,
Stuff.
I'm sorry, I can't focus today because we got a new Fujimoto one shot
We did get
and
a new Fujimoto, and let's just, you know what?
a feature.
This is 1 second. This is Read Your Way, a manga and anime podcast. I am Logan,
Can't even
and
get our
this
title
is
right. God.
and this is Brad, and we're here to talk to you about the latest news and exciting things happening in the world of manga and anime. Let's
That's it.
continue. Let's
I'm
continue.
sorry. I'm sorry.
No,
It was just
when I saw it, I got so incredibly excited that I read it straight away.
and I can't believe that I
And
didn't see it until
I
the end of the end of the day.
I was waiting for like 7 hours. I texted you, and I'm just like, where is he? Where is he? What's going on? Oh man,
Uh,
it's something else. So we just gonna jump straight into that, or are we gonna? You got something else to talk about?
I think we should go.
I mean, we can talk about what we've been up to. It's been 3 weeks, man.
It has.
Telling you
All right.
now.
Actually, yeah.
Let's recap the 3 weeks and see what we've been up to.
What have you been reading, my friend?
What have I been reading? I have been reading. Besides all the regular stuff, I've been reading Berserk.
Ooh.
So I recently obtained in my dirty little fingers the volume 1 and 2 of the deluxe edition of Berserk. Oh, so good. I've never read it before. I've only watched the anime, and I'd never watched that really horrible, what was it, 2014 remake. And then I did watch the movies that they released on Netflix a couple of years back.
Oh yeah.
But wow, it is just such a tiny piece of the story.
Admittedly, I haven't touched any of the animated stuff for Berserk because I've heard that it's a bit stinky.
It's not terrible. It's not like absolutely terrible, but it's also not an honest representation of the manga.
All right.
The manga is just much, and I think the problem people have with it is that its scale is so much smaller than what has been illustrated in those pages. And also
I see.
the violence, man. The violence is way. It should, if they decide to jump on board and do this thing properly, they would have to get the team that was behind Hellsing Ultimate to do it, because I think they're the only ones who could do it justice. I can't remember which studio was behind that, actually.
I think that was Madhouse, wasn't it?
Could be. And look, honestly, that suits them so well. If anybody should do an epic of this scale, Madhouse has the name and the quality to back it up. I think you're looking that up for me now, right now.
I am.
Yeah,
because it's gonna bug me otherwise.
yeah. And that actually, once I devoured, I'm not joking here. I read over 1,200 pages over 2 days. That was in between all my other duties. I just powered through it. It was so quick and so easy to read. The characters are so easy to adapt to and understand, and the trauma and the drama is just so big. It's not little stuff. So if you're intending to pick this book up, so if you're going to take my recommendation and you're just going to run down and grab this, just be wary that there's a adult advisory sticker on the front of it, and that is there for a very big reason. It's there not only just for the violence, but there is a lot of trauma for the children. Kids aged 8 to 12 being abused on a very nasty level.
I've heard that it's
Um,
very raw.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But what it does is it really encapsulates you into the world that's happening. You know, this is the dark ages, man. This is the worst possible things that humans have ever done in existence were done during those periods of time. You know, the
Oh yeah,
types of tortures we use, the disease, all the other things. You know, it's all
the
rolled up in
depravity.
there.
Yeah.
It is. It's just horrible, and this actually is the best encapsulation of that time I've ever seen. I mean, I know it's not historically correct because it's a fantasy, but I feel like that's what it would have felt like back then.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep. Yep.
I wouldn't survive. I know
I don't
I
think
wouldn't.
I don't think a lot of us would nowadays.
No. There's a few people that might thrive in it, but you would have to be one very determined person to continue through it.
I will get around to Berserk at one stage. It's you know when you have a never-ending pile of things and you just continually add things to it, and you have it within that pile you have your rainy day pile that if you run out of things to read and you're in a particular mood to read something new, or you're feeling particularly shitty, you go to that pile first. Berserk is pretty much at the top of that pile for me.
Yeah,
It's one that I'm kind of saving, but I know that it's going to be good. But yeah, I don't
yeah.
know. I still haven't even finished reading Golden Camel yet.
Well, that's a fair few chapters in there.
Yeah,
I know I've definitely put that down in favor for a few other things. I think um, at the moment I will pick it up again because it's a great story, great characters.
man,
But
I just love the gags. So fun.
I had a real um, desire for some sign-in content.
Yeah,
And after reading those two volumes, I actually jumped straight into the Helsing anime
oh wow.
series. Again, I haven't watched it since it first came out back in, I want to say 2014. Pretty sure that's when it came out. Yeah, I jumped
No,
back into that.
Ultimate? No, I think it was older than that.
You think? I might be wrong then. It definitely has aged incredibly well.
Okay, so the last few episodes were in 2012, but it
Oh,
started
okay.
airing in 2006. It
Ultimate.
was a very it was a very staggered sort of release with the OVAs.
Huh. That's interesting.
It,
Because
it's
it doesn't
weird.
feel like it. Watching it through, it feels like it was done in one hit, to be honest. There is some detail difference. So as you get further down the track of the series, I found the detail gets a little bit higher,
Yeah,
and they take their time with a few of the smaller details. Yeah,
yeah,
throughout the series.
yeah. It
But
was
I forgot how much fun it is. I really forgot how much fun that series is.
yeah.
In
They did 1 to
between,
2 episodes a year. Um,
but you can
starting
tell.
starting in 2006, and then
Yeah.
ending in 2012. Wow.
And the studio?
It was definitely Madhouse. They
Yeah.
did have
Yeah.
a couple of other
Okay.
studios working on it with them, but predominantly, yeah.
But
Um,
its quality is phenomenal. As far as anything
I,
that's been done over the years
yeah,
since,
yeah,
it
yeah. Why don't we talk a little bit about Helsing? For people who don't actually know what Helsing is, seeing as it's nearly 20 years old. Holy crap! And that's just the
is that the
ultimate.
original series?
No,
Oh,
that's
well, no,
just
that's
ultimate.
the ultimate. The original series was like 90s, wasn't it?
I think
Um,
so. Yeah.
mm. Oh man, I'm getting so old. Uh, and then the manga is like, um, I don't want to say late 80s. I want to say early 90s. Uh, I think it actually came out around a very similar period to Berserk as
97.
well. Yeah. Okay.
Um,
97,
and
really?
97,
So
and it got its first anime series in 2001.
that's pretty quick.
I don't know why we're going so factoidal on this
I
episode,
don't
but I
know.
hope you
I
guys
don't
are
know.
enjoying. Um, so
It's
yeah, for
yeah.
people who aren't familiar with Hellsing, uh, back in the day, it was one of the edgiest staples for the anime community before the big streaming services. Um, as you could probably actually know, there's the title Hellsing really doesn't give much away,
I,
does it?
it does a little bit, but that's only
I
if you
mean,
have consumed that particular genre of content. So Helsing,
yeah,
of course, is Dracula. Yeah,
yeah.
Helsing
Well,
is the
Van Helsing,
yeah,
yeah,
Van Helsing is the guy who, of course, killed Dracula and hunted vampires and all that sort of stuff. So
true, yeah.
his name has been used in cinema for 100 years. I want to say 100 years
Yeah,
because
even longer.
um, cinema. I mean, he's the original Dracula book is yeah, long time ago. But yeah, that name's been steeped in history for a long time, and this carries that particular
I feel stupid
name.
because I didn't make the connection until right now. And if I didn't, I forgot about it. So,
Okay,
yep.
okay. So yes,
Hence my
they
comment.
yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it's basically a story about the Helsing family in modern times and where they stand as vampire hunters and the likes of and at their current point they are basically a special operations team used by the I'm not going to say government because they're often used by the church, which is
Yeah.
basically the government in this particular series. Which really isn't that far from the fact. I get it, but the one of the key weapons that Helsing use is actually a vampire.
Yeah. Mr.
The
Alucard himself.
Alucard. It depends on how you translate that, but it's Alucard because of if you spin it around, what's it say?
It's Dracula. Oh,
Yeah, it's just
my
Dracula
god.
backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
It
knew
works
that.
though.
You knew
Yeah.
that.
I knew that one.
Yeah.
That one was pretty on the nose.
It was, but originally when I first saw it, it never ticked over for me because they said Arucard, and they had an
Oh
R
right. And
instead
they
of an L,
yeah. And they
and
had
they
the bit of
still
the
do it.
U sounding. Yeah.
Yeah, and they still do it when they do the translations and you're reading subtitles. It's AR instead of
Huh.
AL. So I don't.
That's
I think
dated,
that's
isn't it?
one of those lost in translation sort of moments
Yeah.
there. But yeah, he's basically their secret weapon, and
Oh my god, it is so cool. Like
it is like the epitome of cool when it comes to horror.
it
You're
is
very right.
probably it. I mean, I wouldn't. Okay, Ultimate, yes, that's got the
Yeah,
more horror elements, but like the original anime run, which is what I was exposed to first, um, it's just edgy teenage popcorn horror. Like it's not really spoopy and scary. It's still
no,
cool and it's
yeah,
got
it's
all the
fun.
action stuff and it's fun as heck. But yeah, the Ultimate and the manga, oh my god.
I haven't read the
Um
manga yet, so they've done it in the deluxe version like Berserk, and you can get it in 3 volumes because it's such a short manga. So that's actually one of my next ones I'm going to be purchasing is to add to
I
my library.
I read the first few chapters years ago, I think around the Dark Ages. During like the early 2000s where
Oh
it
yeah,
was almost impossible to get more, so I like maybe read the first couple of chapters or maybe the first tankobon, but
yeah,
I need to go back to it actually. You've relit the fire that is Helsing,
that's right.
and it's getting so nostalgic. They even did a Team 4 Star, the guys that did the Dragon Ball Abridged and stuff like that. They did a
Dragon Ball Rouge. That's still going to be a
yeah
freaking long, long
they
scenario
they
right there.
they did Hellsinger Bridged as well, and
Yeah,
it's really good. Um, but yeah, no, uh, it takes a big pivot to focusing on Nazis as well, doesn't it? And like,
Oh, huge pivot. So it goes it's full throttle. There's no break in this series whatsoever. So that's ultimate. I'm not sure about the manga.
actually,
The original series had a lot of breaks and
you
sort of
know,
fluffy content.
you know
But
what? From my rose tinted, nearly 15 years of what after not seeing any Hellsing, I would say that it has the same energy as movie like Die Hard, but then throw it into Dracula. Like it is so high octane. It's still got the
yeah.
horror element and it's very supernatural, but it is an action movie.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's action all the way through. Which is great.
And like
It
those
doesn't give
cheesy
you a
action
moment.
movies. Yeah.
Yeah, big explosions and enormous events and, you
It's
know, your unkillable hero. It's so it's so
you haven't
nuts.
even seen my final form.
Yeah, that's right. He's got so many
He
final forms.
he does. Oh my god, he is one of the coolest anti-heroes.
Yes. Yeah,
And
and
I think he's
he's
so
so
suave.
anti-hero. Yeah.
Like
There are moments he
it
does border on, "I'm just an evil guy who has to listen to the good guys." Uh,
yeah,
the way he just laughs when crap goes
his
down
his
and millions
character
of
is
people
very
die.
well written. Very, very
Yeah,
good.
yeah, a lot of
And
fun.
how did we get into this?
Oh,
Um,
because I've been watching the series.
true,
That's
true.
one of the things I've been getting stuck into. What else? What else have I been doing? I watched I watched the Godzilla Singular Point series on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Uh, I actually really, really enjoyed it. It's probably one of the best Godzilla films I've seen for years, or series. It's a series, but it feels like a film because if you cut it right, that would just be a film.
Mm,
It's just back to back to back.
yeah.
But
Nice.
it really brought back the feeling of the old 60s and 70s Godzilla films that focus so heavily on the main characters instead of Godzilla. Godzilla's just like this guy in the background.
Yeah.
He's the reason they're there, but he's not a main player.
He's
So
he's the focal point of the story, but not as a character per se,
yeah,
or of a
yeah, he's
plot
the
device.
catalyst. He's the catalyst of the story. He's the reason that everything is being brought together and why things are happening.
I
Or
mean,
one of a
kind
few.
of that's kind of like the whole point of Godzilla, right? Apart from the, I guess the more Americanized ones.
Yeah, the American stuff really lost its way with that, and even a lot of the more recent Japanese ones are so steeped in monsters fighting monsters that they forget
Oh yeah, true.
Godzilla what it was originally about.
I do
It was
forget
always
the monster fight ones.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Well, in
but
saying that,
yeah, look,
yeah,
Singular Point um, was just a fun, light-hearted show. It's not over the top. It's very sciencey, so there's a lot of science content in there and talk.
yeah.
Um, Characters are really likable. Um, no violence, so any age level can watch it. It's not boring, so it keeps a really good balance between exposition and information and action sequences. It's actually really well paced, so I was quite surprised and
Have you seen Robotics Notes?
I have not.
It's done by the same, based off the same team. Sorry, hang on. I think it's an anime based on a light novel that's done by the same team that does Steins Gate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
man, that hurt to get out.
Yeah.
It doesn't help because you haven't seen it, but the whole premise for that is that they're building basically a Gundam, um, or in league with Japan's NASA. And from
Okay.
what I've seen of Godzilla's singular point is that it reminds me very much of that, where it's focused on these kids doing a thing, but you've got Godzilla in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty
yeah,
kind of, because the kids get roped into, bigger things and
yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah.
the likes of. So I've heard that Robotics Notes is pretty slow paced,
Yeah,
more slice of life than it is action packed.
yeah. It's a slice. Yeah, it's a drama.
Yeah, a bit more like Atom. The I think it was Atom. The one about the prequel to Astro Boy. Was it Atom?
I don't
Oh, I can't remember it now.
know.
I went into that show thinking it was going to have a bit more action behind it. But it was a really slice of life story about how the two scientists who created Astro Boy met in university, and
Oh,
the first robot they built before they built Astro Boy, or the Mighty Atom, or yeah,
right.
whatever translations. That's a little bit off course.
Segue.
Segue.
Dude,
Yeah.
Dawn to Dawn.
Dun 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 dun. Man, 3 weeks of gem after gem after gem.
Like, I know that we're doing the wrap up of the volcano snake,
Yeah,
whatever you would call that
the
mini arc. That
volcano
wasn't really
serpent
that.
arc.
But damn, so seamless.
Yes, they just, as per usual, they get off. They're riding down the street at 120k an hour on a motorbike, and they stop, get off, and get on a bus. But they're still moving. This is the thing. They don't stop. They keep moving. They're just at a slower pace. But
And like, we're back to our like slice of life stuff now.
yeah, the fun stuff.
Where yeah, honestly, but even the slice of life stuff with Dandadan is so sci-fi now that it it might as well not even be considered slice of life anymore. But
Well, slice of life, sci-fi, fantasy.
we had rom-com again. Oh, we have
Yes.
developments. Oh,
So good to start seeing that again.
uh,
Holding hands.
that was
That
3 weeks
was-
ago, man.
I know, but it was such a big moment for
There has
those
been
two
so
characters.
much in the last 3 chapters that it's all kind of situated around Gigi and the evil eye, and just at like grandma's house and going back to grandma's house, that it all kind of melds into one
Mm.
big chapter.
It does. Has that real constant flow vibe. So it's one of those 3 chapter sequences that would have been way better if they just left it for 3 weeks and then dropped it at the end of the 3 weeks so we could read it from start to finish, because
Yeah.
it just feels like that one continuous story that runs through, without any sort of breathing room.
Oh my god, and the paneling and the lettering, everything is so meticulously crafted. I just can't with this series. Like the coffee table flip,
It's
the whole
so
scene
beautiful.
preceding the coffee table flip, like just the interactions between the characters, where there's one big scene and there'll be like multitudes of things going on, but it's so easy and fluid to read. Or because there's different conversations going on, it doesn't matter how you're hearing things, or sorry, reading things, because you're basically almost like a fly on the wall watching a family gathering where there's all these different conversations happening.
Yeah,
So you can kind
yeah.
of sit back and just hear all of it, and it's, I don't know, the way that it's done is just so amazing,
It makes you
and just
feel like you're there.
yeah,
That's what it is. It makes you feel like you're standing in the room in a corner, and you just haven't said anything yet. And you're just waiting for everybody to finish their conversation. That's what it really feels like. Um,
uh, and
and
dude, the
you're right.
perspective shots again.
It's just everything is just the way the panels work. That you when you read them, they just flow, and you've got walls in between, and people are doing things on the other side which are related to here,
Actually, that's
and
another
it's just
thing. They were using the physical wall as a panel break as
yeah.
well. I can't with this series,
It
man.
is. It is. It's really, really amazingly thought out and
Oh, hey,
beautiful.
Jack.
Hey, Jack.
We're just
Uh,
talking about Dan to Dan and gushing over how amazing the last 3 chapters have been. But you
absolutely
wouldn't know
beautiful.
that because you haven't read it yet, so you're dead to me.
I'm thoroughly disappointed.
I
Thoroughly.
know. Mm.
Yes. So, so
Oh,
yes,
and we have a new
we
cryptid.
a new. What? Sorry.
The cryptid, the subterraneans.
Could you?
You know the cryptids like your Bigfoot, subterraneans, lizard
Oh,
people.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. The cryptids, the overarching blanket term that actually we haven't heard since Okarun was talking about the Mongolian deathworm at the start
Yeah.
of
Oh, way
the
back.
last arc.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. When they finally went underground.
yeah.
Yeah, that was way back.
How rude. As a matter of fact, Jack, I have started to read One Punch Man. I just haven't caught up or finished it. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm actually I just realized I'm a day behind on Dan and I haven't read the new chapter.
Oh, you. Oh,
Sorry.
okay. All right.
Sorry,
I
that's
was.
I
I
didn't I
was.
was yeah, I've been so flustered with everything else that I hadn't actually stopped and seen that they'd dropped. Um
I was
but
about to
yeah.
spoil that for you.
Well,
Um.
I'm going to enjoy it regardless what you say. Unless I
uh.
physically see it on the page, I'm not going to be happy.
Out of
So,
context. You. They go to a metal concert.
yes, with the alien. Please tell me that the alien's
No,
there.
the alien's not there.
Okay,
It's to
grandma,
do like Gigi's there.
grandma, oh,
Grandma's
Jesus,
there. Yeah.
yes.
The whole gang's there.
I'm always happy when
It
grandma's
was
there.
it was really fun. It was a really fun chapter. Um,
Yeah.
it all of a sudden went from being a slice of life supernatural action series to just being a music manga for a few pages. Like, and it went really hard. Like your like the action scenes you would see in like Beck and stuff where they were
Yeah.
doing Battle of the Bands and stuff. It was like that, but Dan to Dan levels. So it was like up here. It was dude, it was so good.
Oh, maybe it's an homage.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Um
Maybe he's been reading some Beck.
there has been over the last 3 weeks, there have been so many developments across all of the Shonen Jump chart titles.
Yeah.
Like everything is bringing its A game or doing a plot twist or doing big reveals. One Piece is just
Yeah.
incredible. I know.
Everything's
Uh,
on fire there. Everything's on fire
everything
there.
is well, actually no, everything's not
Oh,
on fire anymore.
I know. He's finished. He's finished being wibbly wobbly.
Oh no, he's on fire still.
Oh,
No,
okay.
the whole base that they were raiding was actually on fire for like what feels like 3 years now. Uh, although the whole base has been slowly floating towards the capital for with only 5 minutes for like 5 years, so that's nothing. That's what happens when
Oh
you have like
no,
weekly releases, man, and you're cramming so
okay.
much. It's like, yeah, no,
Cramming it all in
that
there.
thing's been traveling real slow.
I just want to have a quick chat about Aishimon,
Yes.
which
Um,
has been like one of my favorites. Is I've been really enjoying
it's so
the
good.
world building on this, but the last chapter has me a little bit worried.
Oh, in what way? That it might be getting the
Just
axe?
the way he rushed through that sequence of exposition of obtaining that new power. He basically did it and explained it so quickly, and it was the power to basically beat the final boss. It felt like it was pushed through a lot quicker than I think it should have been.
Maybe. I do see where you're coming from.
It's
Um,
just it's got me, I'm
in
just
saying that, if you remember, because we have the opportunity with Aishimon that we don't have with a lot of others, being that we have seen his serialized work literally
yeah, yeah,
that's only just finished up like what 2 years ago.
yeah,
Um,
one
so
year.
we can kind of maybe compare to that and speculate a little bit. And a lot of Gabimaru's upgrades and whatnot happened pretty quick. Like he didn't dilly dally when the characters were getting upgrades. It was either in the fight and it was over a couple of like maybe 1 to 2 chapters, or it was like a out of um combat exposition dump, kind of like what we got here.
Yeah,
Um, while
and
I
it
was
is
reading
it
it,
is very heavy. It's a
oh
very
yeah,
text heavy chapter. Um,
while I was reading it, I didn't get those
you
sort
didn't
of
get a
vibes
vibe?
of like this
Maybe
feels
just me.
rushed.
It's just me worrying. It's
Um,
me worrying
I
because I
know,
do
man.
that, and I don't
We
want
get
it to be that because
the
I'm
we
loving the
we get the
world.
cancellation PTSDs.
We do. We do. I worry every time something like this happens. Anytime a series does an exposition dump like this and it's exposing something that feels like it's going to end the series,
Yeah,
it just feels
I
mm,
I, I
real
mean,
jarring.
it's a special case, right? Because he has been taking very close W's for the last few fights.
Hmm.
And the fight before the previous one that he actually did win, he lost real bad.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't think it's necessarily out of nowhere exposition dump. I don't think that it's necessarily out of left field either, because it was needed,
Hmm.
because at the moment he's, even though he's superhuman, he's still just human. And introducing that crazy old man could be foreshadowing how he's going to end up as
Mm.
potentially a half yokai human hybrid that could potentially live for, was it like 1,000
Well, he
years?
basically said he was a yokai human, didn't he?
Um, I'm still
I
not
know. He
100% on the law yet.
Yeah. No, the old fella was yokai
Was
human.
a hard, yeah, yeah, the
Yeah,
old
he was a
fella
half
was.
breed.
They've talked about how he could be something akin to like a yokai, or like a special human that has yokai traits, but they haven't given us anything really concrete yet. And I feel like that might
Yeah.
be what we're getting with this exposition dump of the like the chakras and whatnot.
Mm.
I feel like we're going to be focusing heavily on, is it Mamoru? Is that what his name is?
Yeah, I
Pretty
think
sure.
so.
Yeah. On Mamoru.
Most people just call him
And
the human.
I know, right? I did really like how he managed to finally like twig onto how to punch fire, where it needed he needed to be in the midst of battle, even if it was just in this case a battle to rescue a child in a burning building,
Yeah.
and be in that sort of situation, like do or die sort of thing. I do really like that. It is very shonen, like grit will get
Oh,
you
yeah.
through, but it
Yeah.
was good. It was
But
good.
he's the encapsulation of that. He is,
Yeah,
and
that
they've
is
said
his
this from the
character.
get-go that he is the atypical shonen character.
Yeah,
Uh, and it's
he's.
it is he's full of tropes, I get it, but he's so much fun to watch and
I
read.
really liked that. They tied him reading manga into his spiritual healing,
Recovery. Yeah, his spiritual
which
recovery.
then recovers his physical abilities. It's like, come on.
Don't you feel that way?
Yeah, 100%, man.
Yeah,
Especially
I
after
always feel
reading
better
Goodbye
after.
Eri. I-
Yeah.
Is it nearly time? Can we talk about it now?
We can just do it because
Uh,
we need to talk about it.
All right. So if you're watching this after we've live streamed, stop the video now. Go read Goodbye Eri or Sayonara Eri. And it's 200 pages. It's it's good. Just go read it. This is your warning. If you don't want any spoilers, we'll still try and keep it light as we give a synopsis. But we'll give you another big warning when we're probably going to start spoiling stuff.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Can spoil all over the place.
yeah.
It's really hard
And
to not lay spoilers on this one because
we'll do a quick synopsis and
yeah.
then
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
jump straight into it.
Cool.
So Goodbye Eri is a story about a young boy who gets a smartphone for his birthday, and his mother asks him to record her um, as she has a terminal illness, and she wants them to have footage to remember her by as he grows up. I think he's like what 14 or something.
Something
He's
like
not.
that.
He's not that. Actually, I don't know. Oh no, he's 12.
12?
I'm pretty
Is he
sure.
12?
Yeah, it's his happy 12th birthday. Um, so
Hmm.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, those
We'll get
first few pages are just like
we'll get back to that.
yeah.
It's very amateur film in the way that it portrays itself. It has very amazing shaky. It almost reminds me of like a found footage
Yeah, that's the vibe I got.
yeah,
And you're right.
where it's an amateur filmmaker. Um they're trying to portray a story that they've got in their mind, as well as just kind of vlogging almost.
Yeah, but everyone else, not himself.
Yeah. Um it's almost like those come walk with me YouTube videos where it's your focus, it's like a first person POV throughout the entire thing. I think we see Yuta maybe out of the 200 pages, maybe 20 of them like actually see him.
Yeah.
The majority of it, he is off screen behind the camera. And the entire thing is done in a way that you're basically viewing snapshots of his smartphone that he's been recording all of this stuff with. Every page is 4 panels that are distinctively the same shape, that are almost the same as the smartphone title
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, it's very
Um,
similar to a 16:9 aspect ratio that you'd
mm,
record on your phone, um, which is it really helps push the vibe of the whole thing, and I like the fact that you can tell when he's holding the camera and when he puts the camera down.
yes. Um, the art style is so incredibly detailed, and what I mean by that is not the actual detail to the artwork, but the eye for detail. Like you said, there's shaky, blurry moments where Yuta's holding the phone and it's all shaky and he's not keeping it still. So the actual image itself is slightly blurred or askew.
It's the focus. I noticed that when he switched between
Or
his
yeah,
focus
the
from one character
focals.
to another, the focus took a moment to kick in, and the
Yeah,
first panel will be all blurry, and then the next panel will be all in focus, and that really got me. I'm just like, oh, this is so smart.
it
It's just a
also
really smart move.
it gets really meta, where it almost analyzes itself, but as a
It do-
film.
it it does it because it feels like a film. So
It
it's a
feels like you
film.
watched an indie movie.
Yeah, it's a film you're watching that's been analyzed by the person who made the film
Yeah,
while you're watching it.
yeah,
It's it's got such a bizarre vibe to it because you don't know whether you're actually watching a documentary or whether you're watching him the film that he actually made in the end.
yeah.
You can't
And
tell. It's
the
yeah.
and that's the whole gimmick with this, is that it's all about points of view,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
not
very much.
necessarily points of view as in like first person, third person, but more what the director wants you to see, and how you see people as they're portrayed.
Yes, or how you want them to be portrayed.
Yeah,
It's that's
and
cinema in a
that can even come down
nutshell.
to editing.
Yeah, which it does quite heavily in this
I
series.
mean, if people watch any reality TV show nowadays, I can almost guarantee you that majority of the drama that you're watching is all editing room, and
Mm,
none of it has happened. It's either all out of context to make it seem like something has happened. Um, I don't know this from experience, but don't ask why. Maths is very bad for it. Um, during lockdown, my partner got very obsessed with maths, and it was so blaringly obvious. Like, you could
oh,
hear
yeah.
audio tracks being cut from different. Oh man, it was. Anyway, I think we've tiptoed enough around the spoilers for Goodbye Airy,
That's
because
right. If you haven't read it by
it's
now, this is your fault.
it's really hard not to. And the perfect pivot, I feel, is the topic of the point of view.
Yeah,
So for the first chunk of the story, it seems like a slice of life series that you're focusing on this three family household. The mother's dying, the father's doing his best. We'll get back to him because he was one of my favorite characters in this.
yeah, me too. I really, really like the way he was portrayed.
Um, and Utah being our main character that you barely see.
Mm,
The thing with with Fujimoto is he likes to pull fast ones on you and drastically change your perspective on what is going on in a given scene at the drop of a hat. It was very Fire Punch,
yeah,
but whereas Look Back was felt very Chainsaw Man, this felt very Fire Punch.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
at the start, you know that it's kind of going to be sad, maybe a bit dark, but it gets pretty messed up and goes in some pretty dark places. Even just psychologically, like, not emotionally, I would
Yeah,
say, actually. It's probably the
yeah,
best.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Um
I knew it was going to be pretty crazy in that first sort of half of it. In those first few pages when his mother says, "I want you to record me while I'm dying." I'm just like, "Oh,
yeah.
I'm in for a ride now."
That in and of itself was like, "Oh, that's messed up," to ask your
Yeah,
12-year-old son uh to record you until your literal dying breath. But his mum and his dad just seem like such lovely people. And as we progress through their story, the mum gets sicker and sicker. She progresses from being out dancing outside with date night to then immediately being in the hospital. Doesn't go out. The father's crying a lot.
yeah.
Yuta is just like
Yeah,
stalking
he's
on
still
his dad.
recording, he's
Yeah.
still peeking through the door and recording, and, just to have those 4 panels there, that breathing space, it's 4 panels of his dad crying, and the camera doesn't change, nothing really happens, it's just a picture of this man crying while leaning over his bed, and you're just like, oh dang. You feel that moment because you have that time, you have that beat to take it in and go, yeah, his wife's dying. He how do you cope with this? And you
There
can just see the
was
heartbreak
It's
running
so
through it.
real. Um, like it has some of its like funny moments where like very Fujimoto where it's like haha poo joke haha
Yeah, yeah,
um
yeah. Yeah, the toilet obsession.
here's a cat. He's obsessed with cats. Or the mum being, I'm gonna go take a bath, and she's like, no cameras in here, mister. Like very jovial family interactions, and then hard cut to dad's crying in secret.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, all right.
And then it's like, hey, there's a cat. Yeah, you're right. It's just it
Here's my parents
really
sleeping.
oh man, that was so weird.
But kids are weird. He's a
I know.
12-year-old child. I
Yeah,
kept forgetting that while I was reading it. That's
that
got to
first part.
mess a kid up emotionally, something fierce.
Definitely.
Um,
Definitely.
especially having your mum, I guess, desensitize it so much. Um,
Yeah, because she was the real
we'll get to that if you,
low key person in the whole scenario. Because even
yeah,
at the very start, she felt fun but somewhat emotionless in
you could
in
tell
that
that
first
it there
yeah,
was
you
a
could tell
bit
something wasn't right.
there's a bit of an act going on there.
Yeah.
But I just assumed, like at the start, I just assumed it was she's dying.
Yeah.
Um, this is going to be hard for her too. So I assumed that it was the facade that she was putting on to keep up the strong fate, like the
Yeah.
why can't I
Yeah.
word anymore? The strong facade so that people wouldn't worry. Um, and then yeah, she takes a big turn. She starts to die pretty bad. And
And they have to go to
we
the
get
hospital. Yeah,
then we get the transition of like all of that probably happened over 12-ish pages, and then we get
mm,
about another 6 pages of literally Yuta coming to terms with the fact that his mum is literally just about to die, and he's going to record her final breaths, and he finally realizes that he is sad about the situation,
mm,
but because he's been so detached, because he's been seeing everything through that phone lens, it doesn't quite click until they finally get to the hospital. And there's this really cool scene where we finish a 4 panel page where it's basically the exact same art with Yuta holding the phone up to a mirror talking to himself, and he's saying that he can't wrap his head around the situation, and he's because of that he's not sad. But then there's a pause and he realizes that he is, and then the next panel that we get on the next page is just ants dragging away a dead grasshopper. And we get that twice, once close up, and then it zooms back with Yuta's dad trying to get his attention so they could go to the hospital. And I think that imagery was so powerful that it was meant to symbolize the final connection of death for Utah,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
the very next couple of pages, like the next, I think next two, and then the next is the transition of them going to the hospital, and then the next 4 pages is where things get really weird as Yuta runs away from the hospital.
But we get those
And
really nice 4 panels where we just have blurry imagery as
yeah,
he's running with the camera.
so they get out of the hospital. The dad gets goes to the front door and he's like, "Hey, buddy, what are you doing? Come on, we gotta go see your mom." And Yuta just legs it, but the camera's still focused on the dad, and so the imagery just goes all wonky. But we can obviously still hear him. And then you get the 4 panels of him running,
And
and
then we
then
get one big panel.
the well, then we get the 2 panels which only make sense in hindsight, because in reality, Yuta runs away. He doesn't film his mother's dying breaths.
No, that's
That
sort of the big
page,
factor.
this is where the first pivot comes, and so that page where he's running, that is the last of the recorded footage that was um for the mother's, I guess, memento mori. Um, and then the next page we get is the 2 big panels of Yuta running away from the hospital, but towards the camera.
Yeah, so he's put the camera down, and he's running towards it.
Yeah.
And then we get
Two big
the
pages of the hospital exploding.
big. That's right. And at the time, I looked at it and I'm just like,
What?
okay. Only for it to then cut to a cinema. But seeing that happen, I'm just like, okay, I mentally understand why that has happened, why he's portrayed it the way he's portrayed it.
Yeah.
And of course, after that panel, we cut through to the auditorium where he's showing the film to the school. So we've basically
Yeah.
just sat down and read, what did we read? We read 20 solid pages of his mother dying, not realizing that it's actually the short film that he's filmed.
So all of the footage that he had been filming for his mum, he cut down and made a feature film with. Well, he didn't have an ending for it, so he had to make one. So he made a goodbye to his mum by
Yeah,
exploding her.
he blew up the hospital
Yeah.
with her in it. Which,
Now,
essentially is, I'm going to blow up my worries, my
yeah,
fears, my concessions. It's it's just him
it was
running away.
it was very metaphorical.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Except apparently it wasn't received that way at all. And
No.
I mean, I feel like there might be a little bit of a disconnect here, like maybe culturally wise. Like, obviously, all people treat their dead with respect, but I think in Japan it's on a completely different level. So, and because they're so collective as well, I do feel like it has more of an impact over there, and you can see that by the way that the reactions of even the students are drawn. Like, everybody is just stunned. There's a couple of kids that are that look like they're disgusted. Like, one looks like he's gonna throw up. And then it immediately cuts to everyone just ripping on Utah and just
Yeah,
bullying the shit out of him.
yeah. With the the title of the movie was "Dead Explosion Mother."
It was
That
very,
is so
very on the
Fujimoto
nose.
right there. Yeah. Yeah, but it basically goes into the then collective student body bagging the hell out of the film and questioning why he chose to do what he did, the way he did it.
Yeah. And then he even gets ridiculed by his teachers, or
Oh, I
not
love that
ridiculed, but
sequence.
like grilled.
Yeah.
Uh,
I really love that sequence because he's put the
yeah,
camera behind some boxes so the teacher
yeah,
wouldn't actually see him recording. And I'm just like, that is just so on point.
dedication.
And this is the thing: it's the movie is over, right? So you finished watching the movie, but he hasn't put the camera down. We're still in the movie.
Also, he's no longer 12.
No, that's right.
So that's the point where he ages up. And I didn't actually realize this at the start, or when I read it, even the and honestly until kind of now, when we realized that he was 12 at the start. Because when you see him at the school stage, he's probably already like 16.
Hmm.
It's just that he's spent 4 years cutting this movie up.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
that's
he
right.
has gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes of files
Yeah,
of
hundreds
his
of
mother.
hours. Yeah,
And knowing that he was initially 12 to now with Dead Explosion Mother, um, all right, look. Yeah, Jack.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a.
Pretty much, pretty much.
The teachers did straight up grill him after he grilled his own mother. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
God damn it. Now I've forgotten what I was saying. Um, what was I talking about, Logan?
You were still talking about the age difference, and
Oh
the way
yeah.
he grew up. Yeah,
Um, like I need I'm focusing in on this because it's going to become clear that what this kid has gone through in this story is exceedingly messed up. Like
yeah,
he
yeah.
can't be fully okay in his mind. Um I don't think he knows how to deal with emotions properly. I feel like his mother has given him some very deep trauma, which we kind of
Mm.
find out later on, like funnels into obsession with film, um, because we'll get there.
Yeah, so
um,
basically after our little film presentation, after being grilled by the student body and the teachers, um, he's basically told that he's useless. He should, you know, essentially go kill himself, which is seems to be a bit of a running theme with kids over there. Yes, emotional damage.
emotional damage.
And you're right. There's quite a lot of them that had trouble with not so much the film itself, but the explosion at the end.
Yeah. Why
They
did you have to add the
yeah.
explosion?
So they're asking him essentially, why did you have to behave this way after your mother's death? Why couldn't you accept it? Why did you have to run away from it without
Why
actually
didn't
saying that?
and why couldn't you deal with it in a normal way?
Yeah, normal.
Um, why did I guess yeah? Why did you have to over dramatize? And I guess maybe they saw it as him disrespecting his mother and
Yeah, yeah. That's
making her
what they were
the butt of
saying.
the butt of a joke.
Yeah,
Um,
when it wasn't. It was just him
no,
ending it the way he thought he needed to end it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
immediately after that, trigger warning. Yuta decides he wants to kill himself.
Yeah.
Um,
In
and
a nice little 3-page sequence of him monologuing to the camera that, everyone was so mean to me about what I did, and I'm just gonna go kill myself now.
yeah, sorry, Dad. Don't be sad though.
Yeah.
And then over the next 4 pages. It's him you realize where he's been this whole time is the stairwell of the hospital, where his mother died, which incidentally didn't actually get blown up. Um,
Special effects.
and then we get introduced to our, I guess, heroine.
In more ways than one.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
The titular character, Eri. And turns out that she would prefer him to kill himself off a different hospital because this hospital actually does really good work and they're really nice people.
I love that. I love that. Go kill yourself somewhere else.
Yeah, go kill yourself at the shitty hospital. Make sure they cop
Yeah.
the damage for it.
Yeah, that's right.
And it turns out that she's the only person that actually really liked his film. That went to the when she goes to the same school as him and saw the movie and really liked it.
But
And then she
wait,
just
before she says that, she recognizes him, grabs his hand, and drags him to an abandoned building to watch movies with no explanation.
No, that's why she drags him away.
Oh yeah, but she doesn't actually mention that until like
right.
after 3 films that they've watched later,
right.
and he goes, why am I here?
It was just she just recognized him. I forgot. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, and then kidnaps him. And again, we get that blurry found footage.
We mustn't forget that he hasn't put the camera down at this point. We're still watching the movie.
We were going to get a POV suicide. Just think about that for a second.
That would have been pretty interesting.
I mean, that's a way to do it.
Yes. But it's
I told you, Jack, it gets pretty intense.
Pretty dark.
I like the establishing shots as well, and the traveling shots of him being kidnapped by this girl to the abandoned building. It's again we get another bit of a break where we get a spread where we have a full page and another one where we have just the 2 panels. Like, it doesn't happen very often. The majority of the rest of the manga is all the 4-panel 16:9 split.
Yeah, you'll get the odd 1s and 2s, but the vast majority of it's a 4-panel system, and each panel may flow or it may cut. So it might be in the same environment, but then it's like he's cut the film and here's the next scene, and you get that environment happening. They'll be talking about one thing and then it will cut. They're wearing different clothes and they're having a different conversation.
I like the montages. That was the word I was after.
Yeah, and you get that montage of them traveling from the hospital through to the abandoned building. Each panel's different. You get a different piece of scenery as you're passing through, as he's cutting it together instead of just following for half an hour on footage.
No, Jack, it's a step-by-step guide of how not to kill yourself. You get kidnapped by a pretty girl.
That's right. I'm gonna go stand on a roof.
Wow.
That took a turn. Yeah, so look, I just want to point out a few things here. The backgrounds in this particular one shot are quite immaculate, and they're quite a big contrast to the characters themselves. Now, Fujimoto's artwork is simple but detailed in expression. So his artwork isn't the cleanest and most beautiful thing you'll ever see, but you can feel and understand each expression. He doesn't need words the way he draws. It just pushes and flows along with each muscle movement, or how they hold their eyes or their head or their shoulders. He just seems to understand and convey that really well without the overly overbearing complexity of heavy shading and muscle definition and all that sort of stuff, which he can do, but I think he just prefers to keep with a more relaxed, story-driven environment.
I think for him and his style, I think it portrays emotion better.
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
And
And
I
he's
think
such
that's
a
what he's
such an emotionally driven story. All of his stories are so emotionally driven. But I feel like he's actually stolen one of Dan to Dan's artists. I think he may have stolen one of his assistants.
Hey, come back.
Hey, guys, just for a minute, a couple of minutes here.
Yeah.
But if if he's the one responsible for these backgrounds, that's my hat off once again for Mr. Fujimoto, because they are quite exceptional.
Just a quick side note, I did recently read an interview with one of his assistants talking about him. And what they said was, this is the mangaka of Aishimon and Hell's Paradise. What he said was that while I'm very detail oriented, and I will focus on adding in these details until you get this glorious looking thing, Fujimoto just draws like it is, and he'll just slap it down on the page, and that's what you get. And it's very raw, it's very emotional, and it's not necessarily as refined or detailed, but that rawness and that emotion carries through, and that's all that really matters.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that is a very important puzzle piece for him, to continue the story. That's it. It could be an ADHD thing. He just doesn't want to hang around on one panel for too long. Otherwise, it's going to lose the pace. It's going to lose the feeling as he pushes along. Because I don't know how he writes this stuff. Maybe he writes it panel to panel. I don't know. There is a possibility that the way
it's got to be planned out, right? It has to be planned out.
The overarching's got to be planned out. I think he details on the fly. I feel like he details on the fly.
I can see that.
You nut out the story. Yeah, I get it. The plot's there, but that's just the plot.
I mean, I don't know about you, but that's generally how I would approach a script.
Yeah.
Because that way, that's how you get your more genuine interactions.
I think that's we both do a very similar process of writing there, where it's trying to incite that feeling internally to convey it across to the page in a more natural sense.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So where did we get up? Where are we up to?
We're watching movies.
Yes. And they decide. Well, she decides that he's going to make another movie.
Yes.
And yes, Jack. It is insanely unlikely that you'll meet a pretty girl on the top of a roof and not make you jump. But you should still not jump anyway, because then you would miss out on more Fujimoto. So.
This is right. It's the only thing keeping me planted on this planet.
If nothing else.
I love his portrayal of Eri. And I say that with tongue in cheek. As we go further down the story. But
some people have actually pointed out that actually no, I'll save this until we get up to it in the story. But there's a note that I want to make with the mother and Makima from Chainsaw Man.
Oh yes. So much. Okay.
Alrighty.
Yes. Okay. So we're watching movies, and we're talking about movies and making movies. And
And this is where it starts getting really analytical of itself.
yes, because as you're plodding along, you realize that he's making the movie while discovering movies,
Mm,
and that he's a movie maker or a filmmaker. It's once again, it's very meta because it's got so many layers of self-reflection as it passes down, that it's you don't know whether you're watching you don't know whether you're reading what
the
he's
movie that
made
he's made, or the movie that
or made the movie that's been made.
you don't know if you're watching the film or the behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's better.
That's probably
Yeah,
the best way to describe it. Maybe. Yeah, it's a weird one,
yeah,
and we're only a quarter of the way in.
that's right. That's right.
So
It's already
let's speed
started
this up a
to,
little.
yeah, it's already started flipped itself on its head. Um, and basically, we get introduced to a character that is um, that that push he needs, not only to keep living, but to keep creating, to keep
Yeah,
being himself.
he
Um,
essentially one finds a friend, finds a muse, and potentially a love interest all in one go.
yeah,
So he does put her up on a pedestal a little bit. Um, I think he does uh see her as his reason for living, at least at that moment.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Um,
Guardian angel, you could say.
yeah. And so that kind of goes on for a bit where she's almost, I mean, she has no right to, but she coaches him in how to make movies,
Yeah,
because she knows what she's talking about. But in this case she does. Because she's the stand-in point for the analysis side of the series, or the one shot. But I mean, she's a high school student who may be
eh,
majoring in film, but they're pretty young.
she's a film buff,
Yeah.
and it's
And
not
so
like they
that
don't watch movies. Because by
oh,
gosh,
they
do they
watch
watch movies?
so many movies. So over the next like 8 pages, we get another montage, and it's them watching movies, getting food, watching movies, getting new movies to then watch, watching a lot of movies, going to the cinema.
We also get that little 2-page sequence of him, you know, monologuing again about how wonderful
Oh
life is
yes,
and how it can flip you on your head and turn things upside down in a heartbeat. Um, which is essentially what happened to him. He's gone from the brink of wanting to kill himself to, you know, being ravaged with ideas and possibilities. So it's a great little sequence of, you know, where his emotions are at. He's gone
yeah,
from here to up here in one day.
yeah.
So
And I
where's
think this is where that emotional damage
yeah.
comes back into it, right? Like, who asks their 12-year-old son to record their dying breaths? Like,
This is
my
right.
god. Like, there was a moment where I read that and I was like, what?
Yeah, yeah. It's like,
No, 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 no.
this is such a Fujimoto thing.
I was like, no, 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 no. Um, and I was like, Dad, you gonna say anything? And he's just like, my wife's dying. And we're just like, and he just goes along with it too. So I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
maybe it's not gonna be bad.
yeah.
And it
It is bad.
seems super sweet. Um,
Yes, it does seem super sweet.
there's a lot of development between Eri and Yuta over the next few pages. But there comes a point where Eri basically just tells Yuta that she wants him to write a script. I want your next movie. Essentially, she becomes his biggest fan, and
His
she wants
producer
to
at the same
see,
time.
yeah, she wants to
Yeah.
see his next work because she is obsessed. And so
So
he
he
starts
works, starts.
writing. He starts writing. He starts writing, and he hands in his script to her, and she says it is garbage. Try again, and try again, and try again, and try again. And then she gets one, and she's like, "It's not bad. I like the character, but it's not a story. I want a story that only you can tell, not something that's been done before." And so Yuta takes this and he self reflects and asks his dad over dinner what what comes to mind when uh, you think of me, as in Yuta. And his dad starts giving him um, probably a couple of the most important lines of the entire series, where obviously he says his son's all about movies, but he's got this sense of realism, but a little pinch of fantasy always sprinkled in into
Yeah.
everything that he does. And he gives the random example of, like, when you drew me in kindergarten with a dragon for a face, and it seems so not nonsensical. Just it feels like a nothing line.
It sounds flippant. It's
Yeah,
just
flippant. That's
him.
yeah,
Yeah, just like a passing comment, but
yeah.
it's not.
It's
It hits home with him. It speaks to him on a different level.
and I mean it was a very bare bones analysis of what he had already done with the what was it, Dead Explosion
Dead
Mother,
explosion, mother.
because he ended that with a pinch of fantasy by blowing up the hospital. And so they keep watching more movies. I almost died. Almost choked on my lozenge. That scared me.
I wouldn't
Um,
have laughed. Sorry. It's
and so he comes up with a new movie, which is basically the same plot. It's basically the same plot to his original movie of Dead Explosion Mother, but then he starts elaborating on it. So he's like, it starts off the same movie, but then we pivot, and we pivot from the protagonist being the mother to being the director, and he's our wounded protagonist. So it all almost, he starts doing an autobiographical film about his experience making film. It gets so meta so damn quick.
I love the fact that he presents this story which you have just read
Yeah.
to the girl, and she says that's a great idea. And I looked at him like, wait a minute, didn't they just do that? And then
Yeah.
I had to stop and think and go, well, wait a minute, am I watching the movie now? Is that what's happening right now? I'm watching them.
Yeah. No,
I'm
I had
watching the
that same
film that they're
moment.
making while they're making it. And
But
it
I
was
just
just
watched it.
yeah, and it just has this real sense of surrealism that really kicks in there, making you question whether you're watching or reading the thing that they're about to make, or you're reading the thing that makes them make what they're about to make, which is what you're reading.
But then it kind of like then you turn the page, and then it transitioned into him analyzing himself from what had just happened through his trauma at high school, after showing said movie, and then currently flip it back onto what's currently going on in his present life, and then also um making up another story about this vampire who essentially is also dying, that he then gets to film her death because that would then complete his own character arc, essentially, right?
His own, yeah, his own need to finish off that
To film a
thing
death.
that he couldn't do for his mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um
Dying vampire. When I read that, I'm just like, what? But then they explained it. It's so good when they explain it. So
yeah.
it's yeah, it's good fun, and I like that. Really, it's such a simple fantasy twist. You're just like,
Yeah.
and she's a vampire, because that's, that's pretty standard for anime and manga, is everybody's a vampire. Um,
And so
and
yeah, it seems very
it's,
generic.
yeah, yeah. And then they just go on, they just go about their daily lives from there, don't
Yeah.
they? In a sense.
And then he's basically like, "Hey, if we're doing this, you need to be the lead. I want you to be the vampire." And so she's like, "Yeah, right, fine." And she's like, "Cool, you're gonna meet my dad. He's gonna talk your ear off. It's gonna be amazing." And then we hard cut to a silent dinner.
It's so good. It's just like, it's three pages of silence, and all the detail in there, and the awkwardness, and you can just feel the whole thing on the
And they're
pages.
just eating,
It's
and it's
just
just
brilliant.
dead silence. But
And
there's
then
not even
when
sound effects either.
no,
Did
it's
you
just
notice?
yeah, it's just like completely silent.
And then Yuta's dad flips his crap.
Yeah, it's basically, thanks for saving my son and helping him make movies, but never come back again.
Never speak to my son again.
And I'm just sort of reading through it, and I'm going, what just happened?
Whoa. Yeah, it felt like we missed something.
That's so out of character for the dad.
Mm.
You've been reading the dad character for so long, and he's been really good, and then suddenly you get this page where he's just raging at Eri for essentially no particular reason, telling her to get out and leave them, because the film is going to essentially kill them. It's
Yeah,
going
it's gonna
to drive his
break you
son
to
into the
even
ground.
further.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like it's disrespectful to the mother, sort of thing, and he's
Yeah.
just like, "I'm begging you, leave us alone."
And then you get another
And
page of silence.
yeah, and then she just declares cut, and it's again revealed that we have another plot twist.
And then we realize, holy crap, we are in the movie. Are we filming the movie, or are we watching them are we watching the movie that they've already made, because the movie was about them making a movie?
So confusing, dude.
And I'm
I
just
was
like,
so
what is
tired when I was reading it, and I was just like, "What?" Every plot twist, I'm like, "Hang on."
Yeah, you go back a couple of pages, and then you go forward. This
Uh-huh.
is probably
All
one
right.
of the first manga I've read for a little while where I've had to flip back a few pages and then go back again, just to make sure I've read that correctly and I haven't missed something along the way. Because when it comes to Fujimoto stuff, I just have a tendency to just go flip, 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 because I'm just enjoying the
Yeah.
energy as it passes through, and I miss out on the smaller details and have to go back. But this one, because it's so stark and it is so you know sort of monofocal on such a small cast, that there's a lot of other smaller details in there that are really easy to miss. And yeah, those things like no sound effects during these scenes and stuff like that is those little details you don't notice first up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the dad gets so cool. I like that they address it. I like that they had that scene where it was very explosive and we got to feel all that emotion, and then it cut. But then he backpedals a second and goes, "Well, actually, if we make a bad movie, he could get mocked again and potentially even try and kill himself again. And because we're in the movie, we could also end up being hurt as well." And the dad's just like, "Yeah, but that's life." And creating things is sorry, creation is all about getting the audience to like realize these problems and to make them laugh or cry and help them process these sort of things. So and it also wouldn't be fair if we're doing that to our audiences, but creators couldn't get hurt in the process as well.
Yeah. And then
Now
you
I
get that
don't
little break
mean
moment.
yeah, and then he gets me. It's like, "That's a good line. Should we record that?" I was like, "Dad,
And he's like,
yes,
yes, yes,
yes."
absolutely.
um, and then we get a little bit more montagey, and they're I were they still filming at this point?
Yeah, yeah, because you still got those blurry moments, and
True,
you
true.
get the because they're at the beach, you get those scenes where the sun bleaches the image, and
Yeah,
it's another one of those little details where she's back from the camera, but then she moves closer to the camera, and then she's out of focus, and then she's he turns to a different angle, and then the sun bleaches the image out, and it's just all those little details that you get when you're making home movies from your phone,
yeah.
and it's so much focus on that, so much detail.
I really like the next little scene that we get where they're acting the movie, and then this is the thing. This next plot twist is where reality starts blurring because we don't know and haven't known from the beginning what is real and what isn't.
That's correct.
So they're acting them out the movie, and she's like, "Let me drink your blood." She reaches out her hand, and then she falls over and passes out in the ocean. Cinematically looked really, really cool, except no, she actually faints or whatever and ends up in the hospital. And it turns out either our boy is psychic, very good at reading people, or is a god. And turns out that yeah, she is actually dying, and he's recording her final moments to for
Which
prosperity as well. And again, going to film her final moments to complete his own character arc and basically fulfilling his mother's wish by recording a death,
yeah.
uh, but also poop joke.
Oh, I love it. You're just like, this is so heavy, man. Oh,
Poop
here's a
joke.
video of you pooping. It's a picture of you pooping. Uh,
And so
and then it's like, oh yeah, I got another one where I'm like out in the woods or something, isn't it? It's just uh,
yeah.
it's
And
just
that's the moment where we find out that yeah, Harry's dying and she wants him to record, and he's all like, "Wait, no, hold on, no, not again.
we're in the middle of a movie. Do you mind?
Can you not die?" And so then Yuta runs away again, um, completing yet another stage in his hero's journey. And this is where the dad comes in again. Um, so
And
good.
this is where some reality really smacks you in the face, because this next sequence is his dad grounding Yuta, pulling
Yep.
him back from that
But also grounding
fantasy.
us.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we are the viewers. We're seeing everything through Yuta's eyes. So by grounding Yuta, he's grounding us in what's
Yeah.
actually happened, and tearing up the fantasy and presenting us with some
Chills.
reality.
Literal chills.
It really did. And those last moments of the mother's death that the father actually recorded because Yuta wasn't there,
Oh, oh.
I was like, oh my god, my heart broke so
It
much
was
when she said that
so.
line.
And I mean, we don't know what her illness was either. But apparently, it doesn't matter. But in saying that, like when I was reading it, I was like, my heart broke, and it was hard to read. So Yuta's mother, um, basically his dad, is all like, Yuta's not coming, and she's like, right, but because it's your wish, I'll be recording. And she's like, where is he? He's like, he's in the car. And she's like, that boy was utterly useless to the very end. And my initial thought was, all right, maybe this is the illness talking. Like I gave her the benefit of the doubt because she was lovely in the first 20 pages that we read.
Yeah.
And then the curtain gets reefed back, and oh my god, what a bitch.
All the uncut footage, all the footage that hit the floor when he was editing that first film comes
Yeah.
to light, and you get to see
She was abusive.
what the difference between fantasy and reality really is, and what the difference between editing, what it can make, what it can produce, and by pulling out all the horrible things that his mother was, he could remember her as a nice
the
person,
way the way that he
the way he
wanted,
wanted
what,
to.
and possibly even the way that she wanted to be remembered
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
definitely. This was, and they did state that, they state that she's essentially a producer, and
Mm,
she wanted people to see her in that light, and she put on the act for the camera. So that first film that we saw was a film. That was
yeah.
not her. That was not a documentary. That was her acting.
Like we tiptoed around, it was her acting.
Yeah. And it's
There
so
was no facade of
heartbreaking.
strength. It was just a facade.
Just a facade, just someone who
Didn't
was
want to
just,
die
yeah, or
and didn't
thought
want to
they
be.
could make something out of nothing.
Yeah. The way I saw it was that, yeah, it was someone faced with their immortality and didn't want and wanted to leave their mark at any means necessary, and for it to be a positive reflection of her.
Yeah, that's right.
Everyone be damned. And this is where the father's character becomes so amazing. So, what I didn't want to talk about until we got to this reveal was that something I noticed throughout the entire 20 pages at the start was how in pain Yuta's dad was. And now I just put it down to his wife's dying. It wasn't just that. It was that he was turning a blind eye to the treatment of his son because essentially he allowed his dying wife to do whatever the hell she wanted. And if you go back and look at the panels that he's in, even when she is saying, "Hey, here, Yuta, here's your present. Record me until I die,"
And he's like,
he's just like
yeah,
looking at her, looking at him, looking at her again, and it's just like he's immediately like, "This isn't okay. I should say something." No, because there's that like respect
she's
and
dying. Yeah, she's,
yeah, like, oh man. And every time, like nearly every scene that he's in, when he's not crying, he's pained.
yeah.
And
It's
it
so
doesn't
rare
matter
to see a
how much
smile.
editing, he has always got this pained expression. And it retroactively adds so much more depth to the start of the manga. 100 chapters later, 100 pages later.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes you flick back to the start and reread the start and notice those details.
And then that's the point where it gets meta again, and Yuta's dad is I guess the second guardian angel of film in the story, where because Yuta was going to quit and not do it again, but he basically says that what you have done for your mother was incredible. You stripped away all of her faults, all of her flaws, and preserved a beautiful memory of her because that's what you wanted, not necessarily because that was also what your mother wanted.
Yeah.
And the dad just turns and says, I think that's what Eri wants as well, so that to choose how she'll be remembered. And then we get more montage where has I was unsure whether or not this was
Did we have that
editing.
sequence?
I think it was him editing footage of Eri, but then I think. Oh, actually, no.
Yeah, it is.
Now, sorry. Now that I'm looking at it, I thought he was already showing Eri the movie that he'd been cut together, but he hasn't at this point.
No, it's just him editing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they agree to continue filming the movie, and then we get a montage. I really, really like this montage too, of them basically filming Eri's Memento Mori of double panels for like the next 8 pages that ends with them in a cinema and then her being in a wheelchair. So like the last 3 panels that we get are her sitting on a bench in a cinema and then on the wheelchair, and then immediately we don't
Into
see
the
her
hospital.
again. It's just the same 4 panels of them in the hospital talking, and the final page of that montage is the auditorium, and we end with a dying Eri that says, "We'll make a movie that will make them bawl their eyes out," and everybody in the auditorium is bawling their eyes out. Now I was waiting for the hospital to explode again. But then we hard cut to the cat, and
Sorry, I just want to make a quick note. There's a little
I
there's a
accidentally
full
glossed over it. I know, I'm sorry.
there's a full panel page of him doing the peace sign, which is
I
the
did forget about this.
a little tick that she had, that when Eri was watching films, that when the protagonist had a win, she would do a little nonchalant sort of peace sign as an agreement or a happy sort of moment. So when everybody's crying in the auditorium, he gives a little peace sign to the camera to state that he's acknowledging that they've got a win.
He does bring up that tick to her as well.
Yeah. And then we get boob jokes.
That's right. Did we accidentally gloss over that?
Yeah, we glossed right over that because that was in all those panels. Like there was like a good 13 panels of just
that's right. When they were making up, and then that's right, because he says, "Oh yeah," or
nice. He says, "Oh
when
yeah."
there's boobs.
Yeah. And when he does it, she's like, "Yeah, see, you did it."
You did it right there. What do you mean? I do, yeah. And then in that montage when they're doing filming her Memento Mori, she's always throwing up a peace sign when she's in front of the camera.
Yep. Giving that image of happy and pushing forwards. But then the veil gets pulled back again, does it not?
Turns out Eri was just as bad as his mum.
Yeah.
Um,
Apparently
she
she was
also
too mean to him.
apparently she was quite bitchy. This comes from her only other friend. Um, she wore glasses, she wore a retainer, but because she chose not to be filmed with those, we never saw them either.
No.
And that's the way that Yuta portrayed her.
And that's how we see her. And once again, this then breaks the wall and says, hey, are we actually watching the movie that they're making, or are we watching the documentary about the movie that they're making? So are we in it or are we out of it? And this, even though we're pulling the curtain back again and we're getting interviews with people about the characters that are in the movie, it still feels like we're in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and just to realize that Yuta's going through basically the exact same thing that he went through with his mother.
I mean, sure, he got a win that he made a film that made everybody cry, but
Yeah,
just
but
lost someone very important to him.
again,
And I'm not sure, but I kind of got the vibe that they started. Well, he says that they didn't, but I got the vibe that they started dating as well. But again, is that the
that's
perception
the
that they
film.
wanted to see?
That's the film we just
Exactly.
watched. That's what they wanted everybody else to see. But as he states outside of the film, that they never actually got together because she ended up rejecting him. And
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
Yeah. Or did she? Vsauce music.
No.
Just really quickly before we get to the final scene of the manga, um, the parallels between Makima, the major spoilers for Chainsaw Man as well.
If you haven't read
uh,
that, do that.
uh, the the implications of the mother resembling Makima as well as being insanely controlling. It seemed like a bit of a wink to the fans that are over idealizing Makima post Chainsaw Man and misremembering her
I think they are.
for the goddess that she really was not. Like she was a
I
horrible person.
I remember after we finished that series, I reckon it was a couple of months after that I started seeing a lot of simp content about Makima on Twitter and stuff like that. And
TikTok and yeah,
and I'm looking at it,
everybody
I'm going,
barking in the comments.
am I remembering this incorrectly? Or do
I
I not
mean,
remember her killing people to kill other people and then trying to destroy the entire planet? Did I not remember that
yeah.
correctly?
Also, what she did to our boy Denji.
That's correct. She broke him real bad.
Like, my god. So I like that there's like I might be reading too much into it, but I like the parallels.
I'm starting to wonder whether his actual mum may have traumatized him in some way.
Well,
And it's been reflected across, or
there's
of a female figure in his life
a controlling
has
female
done
figure.
him wrong, quite badly. And I feel like that's because it's often reflected in his comics. Even Fire Punch had those sort of figures where they were strong female characters, that
Is you
the
you write
main
what you know.
protagonist thought that they could follow and trust, but ended up being self-righteous and dangerous. So
Which I
it's
mean, it is very a a coming of age realization, I believe, is that realization that your parents are just people. They are
Yeah.
just as infallible as you are. And it's a very rude awakening. I
Yeah.
still remember like having that realization. I was probably maybe 16, 8, like in that 16, 18 range where the penny dropped and it was like, oh, my parents are people.
I'm living in a house with strangers.
They're not just in like infallible like guardians that I knew next to nothing about my parents.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's a common scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um
Right,
we're
getting back to
so
that the end because we're over time.
we are we are
Yeah.
we are on a long episode this
So
time.
yeah.
All right. Do you want to wrap up the ending for us?
Yeah. So basically we spend the next few pages with um Yuta accepting everything and getting on with his life, essentially. You know, getting a job and getting married and having kids and becoming a parent himself and going down that alley and everything is fine
And that's where
until
the obsession kicks in.
yeah, and then oh that's right, I forgot. He
Yeah.
edits the
He
film. He's editing Aries' film
continuously
continuously all the way through college. So he goes to college and he goes through college and every spare moment he has, he edits the film and it becomes an obsession for him.
this is where I was like what I was talking about where um he gets like he gets on with his life, but he- that film never ends for him.
No,
He
it
is
still grips him.
so traumatized by and engrossed by what has happened in his childhood that he needs to perfect this film. Um, so that I guess the women that he loved that are no longer,
Idolized. Yeah.
yeah, um, can be remembered in a perfect way. Um, and then where do we go from there?
And then
Uh,
and then his family dies.
that's
Yep.
right. That's right.
It's just like I'm reading
There's a
along,
car accident.
obsession, obsession, and then it's like, oh yeah, how I was in a car accident, and my dad died, and my wife died, and my child and my daughter died,
That's right.
and I'm
Yeah,
just
I
like,
forgot.
oh, thanks for summing that up in 8 panels. It's
Uh,
just, it's
I
so
mean,
raw, and
yeah,
he's so emotionless, and he doesn't know how to cope with it because there's
because he's been dealing with everything through the lenses of a camera.
That's right. And now we finally get back and we see Yuta older. So he's now filming himself again to cope with the death of his family. Because
He
that
looks like he's dead now.
yeah,
That's
yeah, I did
roughly
like
the
that.
age that he's at. He looks like he's dead.
Yeah.
Um, so
Suspiciously
he's.
so.
I would say
One
maybe.
one would also think maybe we're still in the film and it actually is his dad pretending to be him older. Did I just blow your mind for a moment?
I didn't consider that because I was really tired. Wow. Okay, that you just got the last plot twist on camera.
Not quite. Not quite. We still got one more to go.
Well, okay, the last plot twist for me anyway.
Yeah.
Wow.
Last plot. So after he he basically comes to terms with the fact that everybody in his life is dead, he goes, okay, I'm just going to end it now. I'm going to go back to where all this began, and I'm going to kill myself. And he heads back to
This is perfect, Logan.
the abandoned warehouse. Sorry, it's too good, isn't it? The abandoned warehouse where he watched films with Eri, and
That one thought ties everything together. I'm sorry, but I'm reeling right now.
you're reeling that you didn't realize that.
Okay, okay.
And he goes back to the warehouse only to find Eri sitting there watching movies in the exact same position that she was, let's say, 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
Actually,
20.
something else that yeah, no, I'll bring this up
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
we do this. Yeah.
Yeah. And what happens is the coin drops for him, and then he realizes that she actually is a vampire,
Yeah.
and um, and that the plot that he'd made up was actually reality. He just didn't realize it, or that's the way he
Again,
cut the film.
was he a god?
Or that was the way he cut the film to make it look that way.
Yeah.
So we've got to remember that that sequence of him with Eri, there was a point where it stopped being reality and became the film.
Yeah.
And suddenly we're watching the film. And where did that point cut? Was it before they stated they were, they were going to do the vampire thing, or after? And it then pushes across, and it's like I'm a vampire, but we die every 200 years because our brains explode from all the information we gather. And I'm like, this is
I
such
really
a cool explanation. It's
I
like a
loved
hard
it.
reboot for
Yeah.
the brain, because they can't handle it. They can only retain a certain amount of information, so their memory wipes, and they can't remember who they are. So what has actually happened here is Eri has gotten Yuta to make a film about the best version of her, so that when she wakes up after the hard reboot, that she watches the film
And
about her
remember,
to
it's
remember
51st
who.
States.
Yeah, it is that exactly. So she can remember who she is, but she
Yeah.
gets all the best variations of who she thought she was.
So
So
essentially,
instead
she
of
gets to reinvent herself as her idealized person.
That's right. And Yuta is the one that does that. And this reinstates what his father said earlier on, which was, you have the power to change people's minds, to change people's ideals of what they not only think of themselves, but what other people think of them. And that's the power of cinema. And
And then he blows up the building.
and then he does, doesn't he?
He does.
He does. And then yeah, we get to see them actually sitting there watching part of it, and he's just goodbye, and then he walks away, and then the building explodes, because it's the end of the film. You were watching the movie, man. It's not Yuta, it's Yuta's dad. It's got to be.
I can't believe I missed that.
What
I can't believe I
Fujimoto has
missed it.
done, he has managed to make 3 films
In
in
one.
200 pages,
He's
cut
got a
between
documentary
reality.
and 2 actual movies.
Yeah, because you get the behind the scenes, but you also get the film. Yeah, it's brilliant. Thank you once again, Mr. Fujimoto, for providing us with such amazing, heartwarming, tearing, visceral,
And we know the dad's a pretty good
emotional.
actor too.
Man, seeing your
my
face then was just
God.
magic.
It's just, I can't. Man, that's nuts.
It's perfect. It just makes sense.
Really is. It really does tie everything together. Why did I not even think that could be the dad acting as an adult Yuta?
And Eri's not dead. She was never sick.
Oh yeah, and that's the other thing. The film. Hang on. I just want to double check this. So I had this thought while you were telling me, and after I had that epiphany, I believe that Yuta was recording in the auditorium when his original movie was playing, and that footage of the auditorium is exactly the same as the footage where they're showing Eri, with Eri up on the big screen.
Yeah.
So I don't think he actually re-showed a movie to the school audience. I think that was a part of the movie as well.
Or or the artist was really lazy and just copy and pasted.
I like mine better though.
I know, but it's more likely the
Because
case.
again, that ties in with everything else. Like all we're seeing throughout the entire thing is everything that Yuta wants us to see.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is actually what Fujimoto wants us to see.
Yeah, so that's the whole point of this comic is you get to see the angles of what they're trying to tell you. This is, oh my god, it's a breakdown of media at the moment. Oh my god.
He's so good.
Oh, it's exactly what's happening in the media at the moment. You are seeing what they want you to see.
Yeah.
You are as confused as they are telling you to be confused. Stop it, Fujimoto. Stop
You
it.
can you can also pivot the same commentary to social media
Yeah,
with like Instagram lives of people on every social media really.
that's
Like
right.
you've got the families that are basically exploiting their children for views, and you're only seeing what they want you to see.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't get to see
And
all the other crap. You don't get to see the bad mum behind the curtain. You don't get to see the incredibly depressed dad and why. You don't, yeah, it's just
and he was such a good actor in that one scene too, at the dinner table. It
that's
all
right.
fits. Jeez. Oh wow, that couldn't have gone better. Yeah. I'm glad that I never made that connection. It's
It's
good.
good. It's nice
All
when you
right.
realize that sort of stuff.
Well, thank you everyone for joining in for our Fujimoto breakdown of of
Saying,
Dead Explosion Mother.
oh,
I mean,
I want. So if anybody's out there is listening as a graphic designer, we need a movie poster of Dead Explosion Mother.
oh, that'd be sick.
I want that. I want that on my wall. That's what I
Actually,
want.
just really quickly, the last little thing that I will mention is the Japanese title for Goodbye Eri is specifically chosen the word sayonara, which is not something that you would use as casually as like goodbye, see you later. It's more of like a finale, like I will not see you again, goodbye.
Yeah.
Like
It's
something
not
you
it's
would
not
say to
see ya.
someone that's dying or someone, yeah, like
Yeah.
so that they had a little bit of bracing where we didn't. But
Yeah.
I like how that kind of ties into the framing as well, because you from the title, from the somber art piece that you get of Eri, and the initial start with the mother, it all sets up this framing that Eri is going to die.
Yeah. But did she?
But did she? And so with that, we will go. All right, everybody. So make sure to like us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all of the socials, where you'll see only the best of us because that's what we want you to see. And,
Usually.
and sorry, pardon me. You can catch us every second and fourth week of the month on the YouTubes, Facebooks, and the Twitch. And with that, we'll be signing out.
We'll sign out. I think
I think
we've
we
done
should.
enough damage here. We
Yeah.
should yeah.
Leave everyone
That's right.
with their brains melted.
Or,
Alrighty, ladies
or
and
enlightened.
gents.
Enlightened. We've enlightened people.
That's
That's what
it.
we've done.
That's
That's
it.
what we're here to do.
We'll catch you in 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks
See you
time.
later, guys.
Bye bye.